Something like that, yeah.
Uh, Hello, this is the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
I was commenting that this is when they run out and take a bunch of pictures and turn them into postcards because this is amazing weather. Now that the rain has gone and the smoke has cleared, I bet you had spectacular views on your walk.
Yeah. I've actually been to the local neighborhood because the car's in the shop right now, so I haven't been driving to my usual hiking place. However, the local neighborhood's been nice. It's just been quiet and just getting around. So,
just looking at the hills must be spectacular.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about how to show and tell interest going both ways. I have to tell you, I belong to a number of Facebook groups of single people, divorced and widowed.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, one of the biggest across the board, men and women, every Facebook page complaint is they don't write back. They don't write back. They don't write back. Or it's just one word. I have to do all the work. I have to do all the talking. And I feel their pain. It's a drag.
Yeah.
And it is really helpful if you really do write to somebody. Let's just start with that. If you write to somebody and you really do ask I'm so curious, I'm interested in getting to know you. Here's a little bit about me. And this is a very specific, like I tell people, wow, I love horses. I love spending time with horses. I'm super passionate about them. What's the thing that you're the most passionate about in your life right now? First, if they don't answer me, they're probably not interested or too busy. Yeah. Second, I want to know I don't care what it is. I want to know if they have something that excites them in their life. That's a pretty important thing to me. So I make the effort. I write to them. I ask them questions. If there's a couple of times we just go hello back and forth, and the women are like, but the man should do all the writing. I think that's a bunch of BS. Do you think that's a bunch of BS coming from the guy's point of view? It's not your job to do all the writing.
Well, the thing about it is that we are having, it is about relationship. That's what we're talking about here, is relationships, of course. And a relationship involves two participants. So if the man's supposed to do all the work, she's going to sit there like an obelisk and do nothing. Doesn't make sense. Because frankly, one, she needs to respond to him because he has questions. And also, she even asks questions that gets him involved as well. Because frankly, some men aren't the most creative, on board, pursuing type energetics in their work, in their questioning either. So the thing is, when a woman asks questions to get the man interested, that can get him going, which frankly, she'd be missing out on if she doesn't actually inquire and bounce back from her place.
Yeah, people are in this specific place. I watch how quickly they're ready to write people off. And so a lot of people know to tag me. So that's when I know about this is out there, and I'll go read it and say, truly, when you look at it, how much has your effort been? And it's important to do some soul searching, because if anything you and I talk about, practice doing things that help you feel self-confident, practice that you get better at stuff. So having zero energy about whether or not they're going to write back is really helpful because you have no control over that. Right. Do it because it's going to make you better at this, right?
Absolutely. And the thing about dating apps is like something I'm aware of, because this has come out for me as well, being single among the dating apps, is that I've been putting up, I need to do it, is update my profile because I've done it so long. And so keeping your profile current, keeping hanging out a shingle for your business, having your shop window being updated every so often, like you do, like they redecorate shop windows every quarter. Do the same thing with dating profile because it makes you more noticeable. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that you might discover when you look at your dating profile, your own one, not somebody else's, your own one, that what you wrote down the first time, you realize you're so much more than that now. You've had a chance to sit with it. Maybe you're looking and go, that's not who I am. I'm much more than this. Let me go into greater detail. So one of the things about it is, because I'll say this is another piece, is that in a way we are constantly growing and evolving. We're moving targets. We don't stay the same. So a dating profile is one moment in time that if you don't go back and visit for 2 years, it's 2 years old. So updating is a good thing as well. And the thing about showing and telling interest, it's a thing where basically this is one of the challenges about Facebook groups and dating apps, is it only tells a two-dimensional part of the story.
Mhm.
So you're missing a whole dimension, which is interaction, is live and in-person connection. Yeah, Zoom is great, video chats are great, but it's in person because I don't know if a lot of women know this, is that they get a better sense of a guy by how he feels. When she's with him, she can feel, how trustworthy he is, how down to earth he is, how authentic he is, which
Yep.
you won't be able to tell from posts in a Facebook group or messages or texts.
Yeah, we men and women both have a gift that's factory installed when we're born, that we have instincts and intuitions
Yeah,
that if we listen, we know. We get little senses of, wow, seems like a really good person. Let me keep checking. Oh, there's something that seems off. And it might not be evident at all. You
right.
just have spidey sense, as my niece would say. It's her spidey sense that you just know. And that doesn't mean run away, it's bad. It just means ask more questions, find out more.
Yeah,
The worst thing that single people can do in the dating world is to ignore those little taps on the shoulder that say, find out more, ask
yeah,
more, pay attention, that there needs to be deeper information. And then if it says absolutely no, no matter what, you go, okay, absolutely no, no matter how cute they are, no matter how much money they have, no matter how much you're into their body. If it's no, it's no. And
true.
that can sour so many people because first, they get their heart broken. And second, they think, I can't trust my instincts.
Mhm.
But you really can. You're just not listening. So, one of the ways you can trust your instincts is if somebody starts talking to you to go, because men often they'll say, I just need to get hit over the head with a frying pan, which is true because you don't look for subtle. Generally, men don't look at subtle. They don't notice subtle. So if a woman's doing the subtle things, which we're certainly going to talk about, they don't always notice that. And so if you can pay attention to, almost every man tells me theirs located in their gut, which I love because it's so it's so expected. Women have told me every area of their body about how when they know the right thing. If
Right.
it says, huh, I mean, just pay attention. There's a huh, then go, oh, maybe she's interested. And then act like that. Act like, oh, she might be interested. Because it's too easy to just be oblivious when you don't pay attention to your instincts, right, Barry? I know
Absolutely.
you're very cultivated and educated, but most men have not spent 40 years studying this, so we need to teach them, right?
Yeah, and just to be transparent, I do have quite often where I'm totally oblivious as well. So it's not like I live in total awareness all the time, just to be transparent, because some people are going to go say, how come you do what you do? It's like, I turn it on. And that's the thing about this reality is all we can turn on that sensitivity and awareness of things that we notice when things happen.
Yeah.
One of the pieces of this, oftentimes, and again, flipping the side about being interactive, being a person, I've had the opportunity to meet lots of wonderful women when I go to my spiritual center Sunday because it draws a very attractive crowd. And the dating profile probably was said yes to every single time, but when I get to meet them and talk to them and discover how they're not what I want, it's been very interesting and very, in a sense, freeing because I'm not so attached. And so I love, because for me it's also practice, because one of the things that men need to do more often as well is that a practice being on the approach. I was going to say hunting, but no, on the approach where you're checking into a woman, you're getting to know her and finding out, and also knowing that it doesn't have to be this one. One of the biggest gifts I've gotten is that it's much more fluid in a sense, not so fixated on it. It's got to be a certain person. I'm just open to who I meet. So
Yep.
the nuances of this is a lot of ways is there are certain criteria we have that we want to meet somebody who has the same political views we do, or they're the right height. They do the same sort of, they take care of themselves the way we do. We feel authentic and exercising with them. That sort of thing is good too. But it's also just about that that gut feeling, like you're saying, where you just feel alignment with this person, which is such a great thing to have when you recognize it.
Yes, that's such a good point, Barry, because then when you feel this, wow, they seem like a good person. We seem like we're having some sort of a connection. That's when you can focus more on I do seem interested. Let's see if they seem interested back.
Yeah.
Because if you don't even realize that this exchange might be happening, it's sad how many people miss out, and then they'll say, oh gosh, there was something, but then I didn't realize until 3, hours later. And what do I do? Because I don't know who they are and I didn't get their phone number. And so if you now realize that you're doing that you're missing the opportunities, now we're going to keep teaching you how to notice that there's an opportunity and be more proactive on the spot.
Yeah.
So one of the things I tell women is, generally, if a man makes a point to talk to you, he's moved into your space, he's made an effort to ask you about something or tell you about something out in the wild, as people like saying now that they're meeting people organically. It's such a nice, benign way to talk about it.
Yeah.
He has a level of interest, because men are much more clear about how to use their time, energy, and money, that they're going to get a return on their investment. You just are.
Yeah.
Women that are really in their masculine in the business sense, I have found, have a little more of this developed, but generally we women don't. It's just not how we think. We are scattering our energy everywhere. We're feeling everything all the time. And it's so me, and I own it. I'm okay with it. I just need to understand how differently in this way men and women act. So no, there is some sort of a level of interest if he has come over to talk to you, ask your opinion, said, wow, you mentioned this, I heard you talk about this. I want to hear more. And it could be that it's a business opportunity. That's not bad either. And it could be leading to a potential meeting with them on a more personal level. So put your interest back if you are. Just know there's a level of interest if he's done this.
Yeah.
We women, we generally want to be nice. We don't want to upset people. It's how we were. I keep using the word brainwashed lately. Nobody's gotten mad at me yet, because men were brainwashed not to talk about their feelings. And so women were brainwashed to not tell the truth about their feelings, even though we were taught to emote a lot. So then if you see this, then work on being real with them. If you have a level of interest back, then say, wow, thanks for asking. It's so nice of you to ask. And then if you talk, well, I really enjoyed talking to you. Guys, love to continue this conversation. I said, you don't have to ask them out. You certainly could say, let's have coffee. But you even can just say, gosh, I'd really like to do more of this. What do you think? Everybody's like, oh, that's so scary. Well, but it's better than that 3 hours later going, oh, everybody on Facebook tells me I missed this opportunity when I posted it.
Yeah. Oh, I wish. If only, if only. I've got plenty of those in my history where I wish I'd said something, done something, regrets of those things, and can't do anything about them. They've already gone past the boat. But the thing I can learn from it, which I have done, is get better at going, before that happens, let me just check and see if it was something I really didn't want to miss. It takes effort.
So ladies now know that men are going to approach you for a purpose, for a reason. It's either they really do need advice, they think you might need help, or they're interested in talking to you, seeing if they want to talk to you more. So assume they want to interact with you if they show up in front of you. And you pay attention to your spidey sense that says, okay, good guy. I mean, we always have to keep giving that caveat. If your spidey sense said, no, excuse yourself and leave. I can't tell you the situations that have not happened. Some of them I didn't know, but some I even learned later that I did not have something horrible happen because I paid attention. So always pay attention. But if you have no benign feelings or, wow, he seems interested, then stay and talk. And if you enjoy the conversation, there's nothing bad that will happen if you say, gosh, I'd like to do this more. even if he says, gosh, and I'm in a relationship, or wow, I just wanted to mention this. And you're like, oh, good, I got to practice. Please just saying, oh, good, I practiced. Not, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person and nobody's ever going to want to ask me out. That's not helpful at all. Not at all. He was interested enough. You got confirmation enough that a Y chromosome person wanted to talk to you. Please accept that as a compliment and say, I'm going to practice this more. And then there'll be somebody that'll reciprocate.
Having that simple level of being from the perception that it's practice rather than the place of, oh no, I missed out again. That's a massive paradigm shift for some people. And frankly, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself, because when you can simply say to yourself, each time you have an experience with somebody that you're attracted to and it doesn't work out, it is practice. That simple, because that gives you the freedom to actually enjoy the journey and not be so attached to the one I missed, and the one, like I said earlier, about, the ones that slipped by, because that's an errant approach. We definitely need to be more positive and more unattached in a way to meeting new people, so we can have fun with it, explore with it, and understand it. So
much more realistic. That's why people come back and say, oh, I didn't know dating could be fun. I didn't know interacting with, if you do it this way. So one of the things, if you have listened to our past podcasts and we've talked so much about figuring out who you are and what you're looking for. If something shows up that you like, you're like, oh, good job, Christine. You called in somebody who's polite or was really interested in asking you some good. Look at how good. I'm checking things off my list, not my person, more good things. And then if they do something, you're like, oh, I liked that. I'm going to make sure to write that on my list because I hadn't thought about that before. I want that, more of that, please. And when you put it on your list, you keep saying more of that, please. And if you have an interaction with somebody that doesn't go well, then you go, oh, didn't like that. What would I like instead? If I was going to call Centra Casting and I don't want that, what would I say send instead? And write that on the list. Because if you do it this way, you can only, as much as you want to push yourself to the negative side, it will keep pushing you back to the positive side of every encounter is refining. Every encounter is confirming that good things are showing up. Every encounter is like, oh boy, I forgot, or I didn't even realize I don't want that. Boy, that is really something. I mean, I've certainly had that happen a few times that I'm like, I am going to be even clearer on my list about, I want this instead. So every encounter can be amazing.
The refining process. And that's the thing about our lists, is that oftentimes we write stuff down in a vacuum. We don't have feedback or clarity about why we need it on the list. But then you meet somebody, go, but none on my list. So it's such a good thing to get out to practice, because again, it's always about opportunities, learning, practice, getting to know somebody. It's all part of the good experience. And then also you get to refine your list each time you meet somebody.
Every interaction, use every interaction wherever you are in any social people situation. Keep refining your list with what shows up that you do want and what shows up that you don't want and what would you like instead. And you'll be amazed at how more will show up that you like, partly because you've written it down and partly because you're now noticing. Because if you're so busy noticing, look at all the crap that keeps showing up, you're going to keep noticing the crap. I'm not convinced that more crap shows up, maybe. I just am very convinced we notice it. I'm so convinced we notice it. And that we don't notice the good stuff that could be lurking or happening because we're too busy concentrating on the. So if you would like somebody to approach you this way, write it down, because that's how you feel. Oh, I can really tell they're interested when they do that. That's a real comforting, confirming thing for me. Write down the way that you like to have somebody show interest to you, as well as the way that you like to show interest. But if you know what you like, now you can be looking for that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's funny because sometimes we're only getting to the topic of the conversation, so it's kind of fun to have the title be relevant now, even though we covered so much groundwork before we got to this point. So the thing for me is that the show and tell part, which that cracks me up just saying that part, is those indicators are things that I think we definitely have a challenge with between the genders, because women don't really know how men can show they're interested, and how women can see how women can show they're interested. So I know we're going to take our commercial break, but I want to dive into that big time afterwards, because we really have to we really have to unpack this for people so they understand what they're getting into.
Yep, we're going to give real-time examples, I promise. We'll be right back.
See you in a moment.
Okay. And we're back with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're talking about how to show and tell interest both ways. So I'm happy to go first as the lady. So the way that I generally find that I show interest when I'm talking to a man, I smile a lot. I'm a smiley person, but I smile even more. If I'm finding him enjoyable, I like looking at him, I like listening to what he's saying, I smile a lot. So watch for that. I am a little bit of I'm more of this kind of play. I'm not as much of a flipper, but there's lots of women that flip their hair.
Right.
We mess with our hair. We're preening for you. And it's so unconscious. It's wild. If you sit in any public place and you're watching people interact, just watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's so automatic. We also will, we can, not in any really like overt way, but we like, oh, and huh, and huh. And we often, even if we're not even a touchy-feely person, we emphasize things just with like, this is like an exclamation point. We also touch you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Oh, that's so interesting. We might really see some little piece of lint, or we'll pretend. Mostly, as Barry said in the beginning, we want to see how your energy feels. We've seen how we feel just standing here or sitting here talking to you, but we want to feel it, in some little brief thing, just touching your hand, touching your arm, straightening something. We like doing that anyway, and we want to see how the energy exchange feels. So generally, those are all pretty good indicators that we're very happy talking to you and probably want to continue.
Right.
And we're interested. We're interested in spending time with you if we're doing that stuff.
One of the things I think for men is a similar one, is that if we are interested in you and we're with you, one of the things that we do as men is we're very good at one thing at a time. We're very single focused, which is one of our strengths and also one of our weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for us to multitask a lot of things at once and stay present to all of them. However, when we're courting a woman, going out on a date, and we're interested, we tend to be very single focused on her, which can feel a bit weird for the woman's point of view, because she's probably covering all sorts of things in her awareness about what's going around her. So, but for us, it's like we know what we're looking for, and we meet this woman, and we're going to be like so drinking her in, so to speak, just noticing her and being with her. So there's going to be a constant connection, and it won't necessarily be words we say. It's about our energy is like on this woman, period, nowhere else. The only caveat on that is if we're in a public place for a lot of men, because we also had a sense of taking care of things and being concerned about danger and stuff like that. Because if we're a woman we're attracted to, we also might be having an awareness of what's going on around us, just to make sure we keep her safe. There's a part of that happens in us as well. So we're in a very busy place. Sometimes that part of us comes up to be protective. So then our awareness goes more I won't say diffuse so much, but it becomes more inclusive of what's around, because we want to make sure everything's okay. Because we are, at that point, we move from the interest in the woman to, we care about this woman, let's protect her and make sure she's okay, type of thing. Yeah. That happens as well. We often, for a lot of men, we have a challenge with the touching part, because we have heard so many stories about how women have been hurt and emotionally wounded and have not had good things happen for them. So for us as men to touch a woman, it's almost like we need to get permission first.
Oh yeah.
So If he asks permission, that's a good sign as well. Because he wants to, but he doesn't do it by default because he makes you don't make assumptions.
If we touch you first, if we've made a point of touching you, especially if we've done it more than once, generally that's permission to touch us back the same way. If we touched your hand, touch our hand. If we touched your shoulder, touch our shoulder. It's not how we've touched ourselves. I'll be really clear about that. I'm sure nobody misunderstood that, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway.
Of course.
It's how we touched you. You generally, most of the time, have total permission to reciprocate. But my suggestion is don't do it first without, as Barry mentioned, asking permission. And the thing that women don't realize is how much you are aware of your surroundings, how much you're surveying your surroundings, and that it really goes up the more you're interested in us. And why is he looking away? Why does he keep looking away? I really like him. Doesn't he like me? Way more. But if women hear, as Alison Armstrong says, what's a good reason? Isn't that a good reason that he wants you to be safe? So if you know that, you'll relax into it and go, oh, he's making sure I'm safe. How cool is that? Now, the other thing that Alison brought to all of our attention is that if your type, even if we are way more your type, your physical type walks by, can happen that your lizard brain goes, my type. And then you'll be back. Because she's always talked about, I really like to say this because she's talked about protect and provide, but she said procreate topped them all because of the species would have died if you guys hadn't had this huge desire to procreate. But once you procreate, then you're into protecting and providing whoever you procreated with. So it doesn't mean he's rude. It doesn't mean he doesn't like you. It doesn't mean he doesn't want to be with you, especially if he just goes. Now, it's great if they've gotten evolved and they can control it, and it'd be great. It'd be great. And I just go, did he come right back? I'm okay with it. So what's helpful is to just know they aren't doing it to be a jerk. We assume you are, but we're not. So that's not it. I want to take this out of the equation of whether or not they're interested.
Yeah. And the thing is, and there also are some men who do that because they can't stop. They're constantly pursuing whatever's out there.
No, that's not good. And some of them look for a long time. That's not good either. So then you say, oh, not my guy. Not my guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you could say, gosh, I noticed you did this and it really makes me uncomfortable. Is it something that's just part of you? Please explain it to me. I mean, if you're liking enough other things about him, you could ask. You could do a little fact-finding mission. There's more practicing saying your truth in a nice way, ladies, to say, if I'm going to be interested in him, I'll need him to adjust this. And if he can't, I accept that. He's not my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a key thing too, is it's so tempting to make up assumptions. It's so tempting to make up stories. But if you really are interested in finding out more about this person and they do something that's sort of out of left field, doesn't match, be curious. It really is about, quoting Ted Lasso sort of things about, just be curious, to be willing to find out, because the reality is you might discover a whole new thing you didn't know about because of the way this person acts that is actually in your favor and serves your interest. So part of that, and that's also one of the things about showing interest, is to inquire and know things about the other person. Be curious, frankly, about each other, because the more you are curious to learn about each other, the more you get to know each other. That's where you find out more and more if it's a match for you. So one of the ways you show interest is to inquire, because if you're not interested, you just don't turn off. You don't look at anything at all. But if you do spend time investigating, asking questions, getting to know the person, finding out more about them from both sides of the genders, it's a good sign, because there's a desire and interest in there. But also do your best to be honest and transparent in what you say, because if you start making up stories, it'll come out later it was a lie, and then you're in deep trouble. So be honest up front.
Yes. So one of the ways that I feel somebody's interested in me that I watch for is they ask me questions about me. men are better about not assuming, because you really figure you really don't know. You're
Right.
so content to admit, I have no idea what women are thinking, and I have so much to learn. That's what all the male clients tell me when we first start talking. We women make lots of assumptions about what you're doing, not doing, saying, not saying, because we bounce it off of how we act. And as we just talked about, there's a very different motive, very different motive. Except I think women will look at a man that walks by and think, could he protect me? Would he be a good provider? We do think that kinds of stuff when guys, just from their physicality or what they're wearing, how they're carrying themselves. So it's not that we don't do it. You guys don't get annoyed about it like we do, though, which is why we had to bring it up, because we get
Yeah.
all in our feelings about it. So I like it when somebody is interested in me, asks me questions about me, doesn't assume they know stuff about me. And it really impresses me. And I had mentioned I'd had a couple conversations with this guy, and then the first time we met, he continued to ask me questions that no one had ever asked me, directed at my profession, which is so unusual, because I usually ask the same questions over and over, which is okay with me, but I don't have to think. But I had to think every time about what my answer really was.
Yeah.
And I'd really think, I'd say, wait, I have to think, and I'd answer, and he'd say, okay, and he'd go off and ask another question or a relating story. And so finally, after the second time of doing that, I said, could I teach you something about me? And he said, yeah. Well, I like that he was open to that. And I said,
Absolutely.
when you ask me a question that I don't know, I really like it. And I do have to think about it. And after I've thought about it and really giving you my thoughtful answer, I really need you to say, gosh, thanks, Christine. That was really a thoughtful answer. I really liked it. And
Yeah.
so it comes up later. He asks me a question. I have to think about it. I wait. He waits. I answer, and he goes, so gosh, Christine, that was really a thoughtful answer. Thank you for taking the time. And then I laughed, and he stopped, and he goes, so how'd I do? I go, so that just raises my interest, that he wanted to know what would make me happier. He
Yes.
made a point of doing, and then he asked what kind of a grade he would get. And
The thing,
that was very enticing.
the thing is, that's one of the other things as well, is that a good sign for a woman that man's interested is when you tell him something you prefer or the way you like something, and he responds to that, and the way where he takes it on is a damn good sign, frankly. Because the challenge is, a lot of times for men, we get into a rut, we get into a groove of the way we do things. So when a woman wants to move out of that place, it's not always easy for us to do. So the indication is that if we do choose to move out of that position we've been in, it's a sign that we're interested enough to change our way of being.
Mm-hmm. Very much. And that's also a litmus test for me, that if I had said, this is what I prefer, and the next time he didn't, I've learned enough to go, may I remind you, this is what I like? And if he still didn't do it, not my guy. Because if this pretty small thing made a big impression on me, but it was pretty small in the scheme of a relationship, he didn't do it, even though he said he could, probably not my guy, because I'm going to ask some bigger things later, and he's going to ask some big things of me. And I need to be honest about, I can't do that. If you can't do it, you need to say. So that also shows me what my level of interest is, and his as well, in me, and his are whether or not we match
Yeah.
in what is important to us, and can the other person do it. It doesn't make the other person better or worse. It's just our person or not.
Yeah. And the reminder of that is that it is a constant journey. It's like, if you're suddenly fixated, this has to be the one, you're basically painting yourself into a corner, because there's no freedom to move into something else. And so you want to be willing to ask questions, but also be willing to acknowledge the truth for yourself. Because I know I've had experience in the past where I was interested in somebody, but then I realized pretty quickly afterwards, she asked some of the questions I had, this wasn't going to be a match at all. And it's challenging sometimes to maintain the interest and the connection when I know it's not going to go anywhere. Someone's like, I'm done, thanks, I'm out, which isn't the most respectful way to do things. So I'm suggesting that for those of us who are in this place of dating and exploring and know somebody, is don't feign it, but also don't just cut them off completely. Let them down gently, so to speak.
My thing is, I say, I'm just not your person.
Yeah.
Often they're fine with that. Sometimes they want to know why, and I have reasons. You know, this is so important to you. It is not me.
Yeah.
I've listened. It's not me. I am not your person. Because I'm not going to explain to them why they're not my person, because they're perfectly fine as they are. But I really understand why I'm not their person. So, Barry, how does a woman show you she's interested?
Frankly, it's the warmth that she exudes, the warmth that she puts directly specific to me, not necessarily everybody, but certainly towards me. And she stays present with me as well. There's something about that connection that transcends the environment we're in. And that's one thing I love when that connection's there, because then the communication becomes rich and multidimensional. And it's just that chance to really be with somebody where everything around just drops away. So that's one of the things I love, is that feeling of connection that's so rich. Another way she can show interest is, yes, physical touch is one of the things, one of my love languages. So physical touch is such a boon, because because what it does, it brings me very present. So it really works that way. And also where we can have a conversation about things that we match on. Because I have certain things I'm very passionate about, things I'm connected to, but also things I'm also curious about. And if she fits into where she provides insight, things I'm curious about, but also matches what I love, those are pluses as well.
Boy, I love that you said the warmth. This is why men are so clear, much more clear than women, why you like having the right woman in your life, and
Oh,
why
yeah.
you put up with the weird stuff that we say and do and think and act. That warmth will keep you there.
Yeah.
And men just say out loud, in person, in the movies, you make me want to be a better man. You make me want to rise up. When you are with the right woman, you just keep wanting to be better. You know, we make you better. We know we encourage you to be better. It's just in your DNA. And if
Yeah.
women just understood better the superpower we have, and we would just use it for good and be nicer about it with all the men, you know, whether you're in a professional, personal, standing in line at the grocery store, if you were just realize this about them, they like our presence. They feel more manly in a very different way than when they feel with other men. They feel manly with other men, but not the way you feel with women.
Very different. Yeah.
Oh, and every man knows this, and lots of women don't.
Amazing.
They just don't. So when a man is giving you so much attention, it's because he's drinking you in, and he's
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
really interested. I mean, the way my husband was with me, I really look back at it when on, especially our first dates and then more, he was always so present. He was always so interested. He was always very, because I'd learned, you know, to say my truth and say what was going on. And he'd be like, okay. And he'd think about, can I do that? Is that okay with me? Can I live up to that? And he'd really think about it. And it was just the most remarkable thing. I knew that we had both done the work to have that kind of feelings about each other, but how it felt to be in his presence, because I tell people, you know, literally and figuratively, that man had the biggest heart I'd ever known. And he was such a nice guy, but there was everything masculine about him. And I always felt so in his presence because of that.
Yeah.
So when a man gives you that, if you allow a man to give you that feeling, you know he's interested. I mean, that man, he was from the first date. There was no holding him back. He was going to figure out how to have me say I loved him and get married to him. It was on his mission. He worked really hard because I was pokey about it. But when you guys know, you know. And if a woman's got her antenna up, you will not, whether, and you get to decide, is he your guy or not? But please pay attention. They know.
Yeah. One of the things I must speak to quickly, because it's another piece to throw in on the back end of this, is we talked quite a few through the conversation about asking questions. And to be interested in the other person is the thing. So if you go in and start talking all about yourself and run the whole gamut of things that you're good about and everything else, which men do a lot, unfortunately, because they want to know that she knows that he's got accomplishments and awards and he's done stuff. it turns her off, generally speaking. So being a good listener on both sides is a good thing, but do it in a place where you get to ask the questions, the other person gets to answer them. Ideally, it's reciprocal, so it's not just one-sided only. One person asking questions, the other person's answering continually. That's not working either. But the interest level is raised when both sides are being interested and being curious, and not just blasting at the other person with the stuff they know and how to do stuff.
Yeah. So that was the point you wanted to make sure you made?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Being sure to share about yourself and what's important to you, and then to keep finding out what's important to the other person, because the interest needs to go deeper over time. You hopefully if you're going to want to see him a second time, there was interest that you liked, and that you've both said. It's really important for both people to say, I'd like to do this again. Would you? Yes, I'd like to do this again. One of you needs to say that. Be brave, even if the other person says, no, thank you. At least now you get to add to the list. Look, all the things I wanted. I wanted to see them again. I like all these things. Sorry, it's not them. I just want more of these. So be brave. And when somebody isn't, if they keep texting, I'd really like to talk on the phone. What do you think? Or I'd really like to meet in person. What do you think? Don't wait for the other person to say it. If you're ready, say, I'm ready. If they're not ready, they'll tell you. Gosh, I'd like to talk just a couple more times, or I really would like to go to the phone before we meet or have a video chat. But say what's going on for you first.
Right.
If it's you first, don't keep waiting. I'm old-fashioned. I want the guy. Well, he doesn't know that you're interested. Men want you to say, I'd say yes, I'm receptive. I think this would be fun. What do you think? He'll ask you out, but he needs to know. It's still very masculine to need to know that you're going to say yes, and your feelings aren't going to be hurt if he asked. Ugh.
Yeah, it's one of the things that basically we're supposed to lead and take charge and get things done. But at the same time, we talked this previous episodes about the show about how for a lot of men we have this unfortunate experience where we know we want to lead, but we're afraid of getting chopped off at the knees because she said no or because she doesn't want to do it. So, ladies, you can certainly do us a favor to show your interest in us by when we lean that direction, you're like with us all the way. So we know when we ask you out, it is going to be a likely yes. So that we don't, because one of the biggest challenges we have as men often is the rejection factor. And we talk about, and one thing I work a lot with my clients is really about how to handle that place of feeling like you're not enough or you're too much or whatever that is. But the recognition is that if they're not interested, find out early on. You'll know pretty quickly anyway from the signs we talked about. Mm-hmm. But if they are interested, you're still going to be able to lean into the opportunity to meet again. And so asking it from a place of centeredness, but also not try to push so far ahead that they can't catch up. It's like piece by piece by piece.
So often I want him to be tender about my heart. I want him to understand about my hard past relationship. Well, be the same, please. He's been yelled at for opening doors. He's been told, I don't want to text so much, or why are you asking to meet right away? Or why do you want my phone number right away? So give some grace about this is what you'd prefer now. And he gets to hear, oh gosh, this woman knows what she wants and she'll tell me and not get mad at me because I didn't guess right. It's so refreshing for both sides if we'll just say what's important.
Absolutely.
So if you're interested, please say. And if you're interested, see if the other person is or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you've heard, lots of people are in this boat where they have no idea what to do or not do, and they're all floundering. So Barry and I'd be happy to help you through that because we've done this ourselves, and we're very good at helping our clients navigate this very specific piece. Because people want to go meet out in the wild. Well, this is the way you do it. You need this piece. You can't go out in the wild without this tool. It's really important. You're gonna be lost in the woods. So the way to get a hold of me to have a conversation is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of the page and you'll see a What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. There's 10 brief questions that talk about where you are and where you'd like to be. And then you'll have access to my online calendar and you can schedule a complimentary conversation with me at your convenience. You can also join my mailing list from my website, and you'll get a repeat of the podcast. And then you can also find out about the new things that are coming up in my business life. You can also scroll to the bottom of my homepage on my website and click on all my social media icons of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. I'm adding Blue Sky and Twitter and YouTube. I know Barry got me actually to spell my name right on. He's my go-to guy for all of that.
Do what I can.
And you can also send me a personal private email with your questions at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And Barry, please tell people how to reach you.
Well, similarly to Christine, I have lots of ways you can reach me. First off is my website, which is barryselby.com. And on my site, there is a opportunity at the top of the screen to click and get a conversation with me, a let's chat button, basically. Leads you to my calendar and also to a form you fill out, so you can see where you are and where you want to go with a conversation and see if anything I offer will match what you need. And if not, that's fine too. But it's worth doing because, hey, you get to know some new things when you talk to me. Secondly, on the homepage at the bottom is a link to my email list. We can jump into the email list there. I have a lot of new things brewing. I just self-launched a program which is going to be announced more formally in the next few weeks. And I'm working on a second program. These are all self-image, self-centric, self-love, self-relationship-centric conversations. So if that interests you, let me know about that. In the middle of the screen is my relationship readiness assessment, the quiz that I created a while ago now. But it's a good way of navigating where you are and where you want to go in a relationship and what you're doing. So you go click on the button, or you go to barryselby.com/quiz, and that will give you the chance to check out what your positioning is in a relationship, maybe where your old wounds are, where you want to go, and how you can get there. So definitely take the quiz. It's a good chance to do that. Secondly, there's a new quiz I created, which is not on my homepage, but if you go to barryselby.com/self-quiz, this is the beginning of a new journey that I'm putting people on, which is a relationship with themselves, because every relationship we have out there is a reflection of the one inside. So if you want to fix the ones out there, oftentimes the work is the one inside. So the self-quiz is a much deeper quiz than the first one, actually. I took the first one and went deeper with it. It's 7 particular areas in self-relationship that will give you some clarity where you want to go. There's also a workbook that comes with it and some notes and everything else that will give you clarity. So do the self-quiz if you're not sure about your relationship journey outside that's maybe based on what's going inside. Also on my website is my book. So you go under the navigation, you click on the book link, and there's a audio on that book page, because not an audio book, but an audio on the book that I used AI software to do a review of my book. And there's 2 fairly professional sounding AI voices that do a pretty good review of my book. So just check that out along. I recommend getting the book because it's a great book, personally I'm biased. But at least listen to the audio because it might give you more inside information too. Also, you can send me an email at barry@barryselby.com. And on social media, my name is my link, my identity on most platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Blue Sky. That's one other one.
Oh, no, not you have Instagram, the others.
No, LinkedIn. I think I mentioned LinkedIn. But they're also, and then on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby, because my other account got hacked. So you find me all the different places.
We're just everywhere, right?
We are. Yeah.
And we're always here live on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern. So we love if you watch live and you want to submit questions, we'll answer them on the air. And then afterwards, if you want to watch us on your devices, you can watch us on Roku and Apple TV. But if you want to take us wherever you're going in your busy social life, they can take us with them, huh, Barry?
Absolutely, because watching a video when you're driving isn't a smart move. But if you take us on audio, do us. So our shows are uploaded to most of the podcast platforms. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon podcast platforms. You can find us all over there. They're getting updated. They're a bit behind the moment. We're getting caught up on those. But those are great because you can listen to us back-to-back episodes when you're driving, hiking, exercising, shopping, wherever you're going, because then you got a resource right there in your ear when you're out in the world. So definitely listen to our podcast.
So whether you watch us or listen to us, we'd love for you to like and give us a review or thumbs up and share it with all of your other people that might be having some questions or challenges in their dating and relationship lives.
And subscribe, of course. We like to know people are loving us.
We love subscribing. And then we will be back next week on Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific with another interesting subject.
See you then. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.